Hi everyone, welcome back. It is Tony, and I'm a little late this week, but such is life. It's been a crazy week. So this week I had my Herceptin shot and I had to get an echocardiogram as part of my cancer treatments. And I have to do 17 Herceptin treatments, and the first 4 or 5 were via my port, and since the pandemic, the rest of them are a shot. So, and I think I've said they're not pleasant, but that's totally beside the point. So, thought I would talk about a little bit about the HER2 and what that is, because I had never heard of it before I had it, and then the Herceptin, which is the drug that I take. So, when you get a biopsy, they test you for what kind of breast cancer you have. And you could be hormone positive. I mean, there's so many combinations. There's 3 things. And, you can do the math. I'm not going to, but you could do the math. And I was triple positive, which means I had the 2 hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and I also had HER2, which is, I think they said about 20% of people are HER2 positive. I was that lucky 20%. So when I went to meet with the oncologist, actually back up, I went to meet with the surgeon first, and I'll never forget. I'm sitting there, and Joe's sitting kind of across from me, leaning on the window, and the doctor comes in, and we're talking, and she said, well, you're HER2. And I said, yeah, I know, yes, I know that. I said, I don't really know what it is. And she tells me it's it's a 3rd receptor, whatever. And I said, oh, okay. She goes, well, you're going to have chemo. I'm like, what? And she's like, well, yeah, if you're HER2 positive, you have to have chemo. And I cried because I'm like, I can do this with just radiation. I was basing my breast cancer on my mom's breast cancer and her mom's breast cancer, or my grandmother's. And so I was floored, and I teared up, and Joe's just kind of looking at me, and I'm like, oh, holy moly, babe. So the next week I met with the oncologist and kind of got a little more information. I still didn't really know what HER2 was. And she drew a picture, there's 3 receptors, like I said, the 3. And she said that the HER2 is what makes a breast cancer aggressive or a stomach cancer aggressive. And I'm like, oh, that kind of stinks. So what it is, and I wrote it down. I have some notes because I knew I wouldn't remember these. But it's HER2 stands for Human Epidermal Growth Factor Receptor 2. And it's the protein that promotes the growth of cancer cells. And it is found on the surface of healthy cells and controls how the cells grow, divide, and repair. So everybody has got HER2. It's just, did your HER2 go crazy like mine did? And so that's kind of what it comes down to. And when they do your biopsy and they test it, they do, I think it's called a link test. And that tells you how much HER2 you have on your cells, on your cancer cells and your healthy cells. Well, I ended up having, I think it's like 1 million is the cutoff for you to be HER2 positive. So when I was at the oncologist, remember, we only knew about the 1 tumor when I was there, and we knew that the size of it was, I think we knew it was either 7 millimeters or 9 millimeters. I forget. I'd have to pull out my notes. And so she knew that I was going back and having the mammograms, ultrasounds, or whatever. And she was like, if you are like, usually it's 2 centimeters and larger, they do the chemo with the Herceptin. And if you're kind of borderline, then they'll do the chemo with the Herceptin. Well, I'm like, heck, I'm 7 millimeters. That's 0.7 centimeters. I'm good. I could just do the radiation, right? And so then the next week is when I had the mammograms, and then the week after that's when I had the MRI. And what happened was the MRI found a second area that had the same wash-in, wash-out tendencies as the tumor that was biopsied. And so what it means is there was a second tumor. They just didn't biopsy it to confirm it. So a little more about me. I have, at the time I had 5 biopsies. So when they biopsy, they put these little metal clips, and there's like different shapes or whatever. And so my breast cancer was at 2:00. And so there was no other, clip around it. And the other clips were kind of on the bottom, and none of the other, areas had that same wash in, wash out, characteristics. So that's kind of how they knew it was a, cancer tumor. So anyway, that's when I told you, the doctor called me, let's schedule a surgery. Oncologist called, and she's like, oh, we need to start chemo immediately, because that meant my 0.7 centimeter tumor turns into a 1.9 centimeter tumor, because what they did is they do the distance from the front of the first one to the back of the second one. And so they took the two together as one whole tumor, and it came close to that 2 centimeters that she had talked about. And so that's why I had to do the chemo with the Herceptin. And typically with the Herceptin, it is it's a target med, or it's a target drug. It's kind of like immunotherapy, the common one you would know of is like allergy shots. You know, when you get allergy shots, that's an immunotherapy type drug. And so that's kind of what Herceptin is. That's an easier way to describe it. It's a target drug that targets only HER2. So, because mine was now 1.9, I had to do the chemo with it. And so for the best results based on the size of your tumor and if it's in your lymph nodes or not in your lymph nodes, then they pair it with paclitaxel. And there's, I don't know, 3 or 4 kinds of paclitaxel. Remember, I did not do one with the original paclitaxel. So I did, the first time I was in there, I did a Herceptin. And you do them every 3 weeks for 17 treatments. So I did the first one. The next 2 weeks were just the chemo. Then the 4th week I had both of them, and then so that's kind of how it went. And when I got to the end of my chemo on January 8th of 2020, they gave me a break to let my immune system build back up so that I could have my surgery. Then you have to recover from your surgery to do your radiation. And then when your radiation's over, then they start you back on your Herceptin, which was the HER2 positive medicine. And so now I do that every 3 weeks until about November 30th, I think is kind of what I guesstimated my last one would be. So I went Tuesday because Monday was a holiday. It was Memorial Day. So I went Tuesday. And this is the 4th shot I got. So because of the whole pandemic, they want to minimize your time in the hospital. And so to do the Herceptin via port, it's a half an hour. To do the shot, it's 5 to 7 minutes. Keep in mind, when you get there, you have to wait for an hour for them to mix your medicine so you can do this 5-10 minute shot. Versus you're there for an hour while they mix your medicine, and then you do a half an hour infusion. Plus the saline, and so it doesn't matter. So anyway, the first time I did it, holy moly, it is in a syringe that has the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it's 6 milliliters, or I don't know what it is actually, but it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they have to give it to you over 5 minutes. And I think I've told y'all this before, but we're going to repeat ourselves because, chemo brain. So the girl pushed like half of from 6 to 5.5 every 30 seconds. And man, you have to do it in your thigh, which is interesting, totally random, because in Europe, they do it in your stomach, but mine is because it's also used for stomach cancer or gastrointestinal cancer type stuff. Mine is obviously not for that, but in Europe, it's only done in the stomach, but in the US, it's done in your legs. So, and they alternate. So we did it on the outside of my left leg the first time. So the next time we go, we do it on the right leg. And she's like, no, you do it on the inside. And I'm like, this is going to hurt. And as I've told y'all, it swells. Like, it swells. And it stays like that for days. And so I noticed it the first 2 weeks. The 3rd week, I knew it was going to happen. I didn't pay attention. Well, Tuesday I had it. Today's Friday. and it's still red. And so I had posted on a Facebook group about HER2 positive breast cancer patients, and hey, does anybody else get this Herceptin shot or whatever? And interesting thing I found out is those who have their shots warmed don't turn red like I did. So note to self, ask about it next time while I'm there. Anyway, that's the whole thing with the shots. Sometimes, and they just do it wherever they want to do it. And the guy, Tuesday, he was, and he did it in 5 minutes, but he did like 6 to 3 in like a minute and a half. And then I'm like, dude, it's burning too bad. You're going to have to back off, because I just, you're supposed to do it over 5 minutes, not over 3, so totally crazy. But I also had to go get an echocardiogram. And with Herceptin, the major side effect is heart problems. And I'm just reading my notes. Number 1, congestive heart failure. Number 2 is reduced heart functions. Double, So when I originally went for my chemo ed, I had to do an echo. Then you do them every like 4 months. Well, I took that break. So this is my 3rd one. And thankfully, my heart functions are normal. I have a healthy heart. I have an arrhythmia, but I think everybody's got an arrhythmia of some sort. And I have a mitral valve prolapse, but that's pretty common too, from what I understand. But so I had to go and get an echo. So what's interesting now is, because of the pandemic, again, our fun pandemic, you can't have anybody go with you. I was there for 5 hours by myself. It was crazy. It's fine. I mean, it is what it is, and you've got to do what you got to do, but it also kind of sucks. It's very depressing, let me just add. But, I'm not going to, and I keep saying, I'm not going to die from this. This is not going to kill me. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? So this is, it's part of my life. Another interesting side effect, and it's the most common one that everybody I talk to that's HER2 positive, takes Herceptin, has, that is not listed on the side effects list, is a drippy nose. My nose is perpetually running. And it's funny because it starts, it happens all the time. I'm always, wiping my nose or whatever, but it's pretty the week after, like not this week, next week is when it'll be bad. And then it'll just go, it won't go away. It just won't be as noticeable. So anyway, it's just kind of interesting. You don't think of, there's so much to breast cancer, and there's so much to treatment options, and, so many other things. And I really am, y'all. I am lucky. Mine was very small because I'm very proactive about getting my mammograms and my ultrasounds. I am very, very proactive about it. And so mine was caught so incredibly early, and I'm so lucky for it. And what's, as I've said many times, okay, I don't know if I've said it many times, but I think I have, the original radiologist that went with his gut. And I'm like, dude, if you want me to go get the ultrasound, I'll go get the ultrasound. The biopsy. And thank God I did, because knowing I was HER2 positive, the doctor said, had I waited the 6 months until my next ultrasound, I probably would have been a stage 3. I was a stage 1. And if you're HER2 positive, you're always, it's like stage 1A, stage 1B, or whatever. You're always going to be an A. It doesn't matter what stage you are, you're always going to be an A, from what I understand. That's how it was explained to me. And in breast cancer, your stages are based on the tumor size. So, I'm very, very lucky, and I know that, and I'm very thankful for that. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to give y'all a little bit about what HER2 is and what Herceptin is. So I hope y'all join again. If you want to, subscribe, hit the like button, or whatever it is you're supposed to do, and I will see you next time. Bye.